Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Oh, it's good to be back. Hello, people of Earth. What a midterm we're coming off of. So much to talk about. I've been watching the news. I shouldn't have done that. And people are melting down on everything. They're melting down on North Korea. They're melting down on Israel. They're melting down on the midterms. It's just a nonstop meltdown. I've never gotten so much pleasure from watching people melt down. So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk a lot about how, and there was a great analysis today, and Mr. Snerdley pointed this out to me in the Washington Post, of all things. By the way, do you guys need anything to wrap fish in? Because I got a free New York Times in my hotel room. No? Okay. The far left is pushing the Democrat Party to the left. My observation is that the GOP is becoming more Trumpian. And I speak as a Pennsylvanian because Pennsylvania was just was it great last night. It was so exciting. And there's some really good things on the horizon for the country. First of all, and I want to let you know this, especially if you're anti-Trump. The Democrat Socialist of America put 4 people in play, and they were founded in 1982. So the big ignition of the Democrat Socialist of America came with Senator Bernie Sanders. And one of the most active groups is in Pittsburgh. There's about 500 of them. And they do things like they host Marxist reading groups, and they talk about how great communism is. And if we can only be communist, we can only eat little bowls of rice. Well, 1 grain of rice per day. So anyway, this is good. So I don't want you, if you're a conservative, I don't want you to panic and go, oh my gosh, look at all these socialists and Marxists that are getting elected on the left to run in the general. This is great for us. This is great for us. When I say us, I mean Trumpians. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about some of the big wins and losses across the country in the midterm. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. In my neck of the woods in Pennsylvania, two big wins. Lou Barletta, and he's going to be a guest on the show a little bit later. Congressman Lou Barletta will be running against incumbent Democrat Senator Bob Casey. He's going to be on the show. Also, who else won? State Senator Scott Wagner won the primary. He's going to be taking on our governor, Governor Tom Wolf in Obama's clothing. So this is a very exciting time across the country. But across the country, we've got socialists that have won. We've got pseudo-Marxists that have won. We have old progressive white men millionaires that are winning, which is great. Like the Philadelphia suburbs, great example. Scott Wallace is the grandson of Henry Wallace, who was Franklin D. Roosevelt's vice president for a term and then ran against Harry Truman. Now, Wallace is a rich, old, white, progressive leftist, 66 years old, and this is great. Think about what the Democrats have run on as of late. Young, hip, forward-thinking, out with the old, in with the new. Let's get rid of it. Remember that? Remember they were so upset that the GOP ran an old, rich, white guy, Trump, that they ran an old, rich, white woman who wasn't as charismatic. I heard a great line yesterday. Brett Baer, who I just started reading his new book about Reagan. It's brilliant. He had a great line yesterday. He said was it Brett or I'm pretty sure it was him. Yeah, he said the only obstruction was Donald Trump obstructing Hillary from getting into the White House. That's the only obstruction, which is a great quote. So, as usual, it is exciting to be here. I want to thank Rush, and I want to invite you to call in, of course, 800-282-2882, and the folks at the EIB network. I came in early today. Everybody, it's just been a great day. There was a big storm here last night, unfortunately, and it was damaging in some of the areas, but I never slept better. Does that happen to you? You sleep good when there's a storm. And then this morning, I was in the bathroom at Starbucks. I didn't buy anything, but I needed to use the I was caught between my hotel and here, and I thought, Starbucks. That was a mistake, by the way. I don't know why they did that. No, it was very nice. I mean, there was actually someone in there cleaning it when I was in there, but I think they really opened a can of worms, especially in New York City. So coming up, we're going to take your calls. We're going to review some more of the election landscape. Well, I wanted to let people know that, let's say you're visiting New York now, and you're like, oh, honey, I can't go all the way back to the hotel. You can go to Starbucks. I'm here to help. That's a service. Bo wants to know why I mentioned that, because Starbucks, as you know, said anyone can use the bathroom. You don't have to be a paying customer. You can just stop in and use it. So later on, after I get off the air here, I'm going to go by, is Le Bernardine still open, the French restaurant? I'm going to swing in there. I got a sport coat. I'm going to swing in. Yes, sir. Can I help you? Just need to use the bathroom. And if you don't let me, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to call you every name in the book, Frenchie. And we'll take it from there. You see what I mean? Elizabeth Warren is polling very well. This is great news for us. This is great news for Trumpers. Because, I don't know if you saw this, but out in Oregon, was it Oregon or Idaho? No, it was Idaho. I stand corrected. Oregon was a Somali immigrant who won a primary, which is very exciting, proving once again that America is the land of opportunity. It's for everyone. Think about this. Imagine being a Somali immigrant and you've won a Senate primary in Oregon, in the United States. This is a big thing. This doesn't happen in a lot of other countries. But I want to jump over to Idaho, where Paulette Jordan defeated a well-known business owner, but she could be the first Native American governor in the country. And I bring that up because if Elizabeth Warren is running, she might be the first Native American president. So you've got those two. You've got, so you got Elizabeth Warren, who she went on what is that thing you Google to get your DNA? No, the FBI crime database. No, I'm sorry. Ancestry.com. I think Elizabeth is enough on Ancestry.com. She has enough to wear a headdress at Halloween if she were to run. So there's a lot of exciting things happening. We've got the socialists being elected. We've got the party moving more to the left, which I'm really excited about. Some of my friends were like, oh, this is not good. No, this is really good. Because what's happening is President Trump is delivering on promises. So he has a record. President Trump has a record. Whether it's the economy, whether it's what the Jerusalem embassy, the North Korea talks, the Chinese trade, the cutting taxes, everything he has been talking about, he's delivering on. He's moving in the correct direction. So whether it's North Korea, whether it's, a good example is the CIA director nominee. She's going to go through. They just picked up 2 Democrat votes, West Virginia and Virginia, a couple senators on that. So things are going in the right direction there. What does that mean? The economy's going well. Unemployment is low, okay? And what's happening on the left, besides a bunch of middle-aged liberal men melting down on a daily basis? What's happening? They're moving to the left. They're moving further to the left. You have people in the Democrat Party that are thinking maybe Elizabeth Warren can team up with Bernie Sanders as on a ticket. This is a great time for conservatives. It's a great time for the GOP. If we can just get a few more people on the GOP to kind of get on board, this is a great time because the Democrats, despite what you hear in the news, they are lurching to the left, and it's going to weaken their party. Because when it comes down to, should I vote for that Trump-esque guy who created more jobs in my district, my state, my region, or should I vote for someone who thinks that we all should have a car and free health care and whatever else Bernie's giving away for free lately. I don't know what it was. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Bo. I'm sorry. He's on with someone. I changed my name to Kanye West on Twitter just to get more followers. You know, Kanye's been on fire like for the last 2 weeks because he came out in support of Trump, which to me is such a window of opportunity for conservatives. You take this and run with it. And what's happening, the left has knee-jerked against Kanye, as they often knee-jerk against anybody who leaves their, I call it the thought plantation. This is the perfect opportunity to say to Kanye West, why do you support President Trump? What do you think he's doing well? Instead of just calling him a sellout. So I thought the timing would be perfect to just change my Twitter handle to Kanye, K-E-N, Kanye West. And I've already, like just now, I picked up one follower, another follower on Twitter. 800-282-2882, The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name is Ken Matthews. Excited to be here. Can't wait to hear from you from across the planet. And a lot more fun coming up. You're listening to The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882 on the EIB network. My name is Ken Matthews. Thrilled, as always, to be back. It's always great to see the team, too. I'm getting to know the team now. I found out where the best coffee in the building is. It's very exciting. 800-282-2882. Don't forget Congressman Lou Barletta. He'll be taking on incumbent Democrat Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, and he'll be on after 1 o'clock, in the 1 o'clock hour. And then in the 2 o'clock hour, from the Freedom Caucus, we have Congressman Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, who is not only part of the Freedom Caucus, but he'll have an update on what's being investigated and why. There's so much going on behind the scenes now. We're going to take some calls, but we're definitely going to address this. I was saying to someone yesterday that you can't make this stuff up, and they said, well, the Democrats did. And now that's a very good point. You cannot make this whole Russian thing and then the turnabout is fair play. When you think about the intrigue and talk about this is beyond a Lifetime television movie. This is beyond Netflix. This could be a series of motion pictures. But so much of what those of us on the conservative side, we kind of presumed it. We presume that this is so far out there and things are happening in such an unorthodox manner. Maybe this just isn't right. And we all knew it didn't smell right. Now we're finding out about moles in campaigns and trumped up FISA warrants and people that were testifying to something that either didn't happen or they testified to it and then it happened. I mean, it's a very exciting time. And hats off to President Trump, who he just doesn't get distracted. It's funny. People say how easily distracted the guy is, but he keeps on keeping on. Let's go to Robin in Cody, Wyoming. Hi, Robin. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Well, thank you for taking my call, Ken. You're funny.
Well, thank you.
I guess my warning for people is just because this is midterm, do not think that your obligation to participate in this republic is not vital. President Trump cannot drain the swamp by himself, and he needs people that we can put into place, whether it's on the state level, the local level, national level. You know, all of those votes and all those elections are important. We're a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. Democracy is mob rule, which falls into anarchy, and we're seeing a little bit of that because people are not participating. They're not. Oh,
very much so.
Midterm.
You covered so much ground there, Robin. Thank you so much. The constitutional republic is something that people forget about all the time. You see that a lot with groups like the Pantifa and some of the other groups. They show up and they say, well, we're loud, we're mobbed, we're going to break stuff, and here's how it's going to be. But We elected people to represent us, and that's what a republic is. And I want to go back to the midterms because so much of the corruption, it starts at the local level. Sometimes I think people think it starts at the top and trickles down, which you could argue that, but think about some of the biggest political corrupt dynasties throughout history, whether it was it Tammany Hall, New York, and then you had the corruption in Chicago and the corruption in various parts of the country, Los Angeles. You had these big, and it was known that this is a corrupt machine. Detroit is a great example of just sadly a big corrupt political machine for so many years, and it just ground that wonderful city, and now they're fighting to rebuild. But the reason, the way you change that is by voting, as Robin just said, by voting in the midterms. You change that at the local level, because we understand, especially conservatives, because we don't want more power at a federal level. We want more power at a local level. So we're thrilled when the state representative of our state or the state senator can more adequately represent us. And you control that in the midterms. You also control the momentum. That's why I'm so excited about these midterms. Some people may look at this and go, "Wow, look at all the Dems that won." The problem is, for the Dems, they're too far left. You're never going to be able to reel these people back in because they went over the top. You know how people go over the top? Like, do you ever watch The View? I watch The View. I watch The View now instead of Saturday Night Live because I think The View's funnier. I think the comedy writing is brilliant. Like, the minute Joy Behar opens her mouth and starts talking politics, it's like, oh, my God, this is a parody. This is great. Who wrote this? And but that over the top, at the end of the day, that's a fringe element of the Democrat Party. That's a fringe element. Most people want a better trade agreement. Most people want a stronger military. Most people, statistically, are not in favor of illegal immigration. And you'd be shocked at how many people in California are even in favor of a reduced immigration altogether, not just illegal, because it's caused so many problems. Trump is one of the first presidents to come along and really put the skids on it. Thanks for your call, Robin. That was great. Let's go to Keith in Loveland, Ohio. Keith, you're on the EIB network.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. My question is, and I've thought this all along, if the President of the United States has the authority to take those emails and all the redacted statements and just tell the Justice Department, release that information. He has the authority to do that, I understand, and it's mind-boggling why he doesn't just do it so that it's out there and everybody knows it. I don't understand that. So it confirmed to me he has that authority to do that.
I believe he does as well, Keith, and I think it's a complicated question because I think there has been several missteps by the Trump administration because they weren't aware of the extent that they're surrounded by people that want to poison their well. We'll be right back. And welcome back to live coverage of the royal wedding. I'm here in the dressing room. Are you following that, the royal wedding? I don't know. I think it's kind of exciting. Just a quick, you're paying people. I remember, was it 79? It had to be 79 because I was still working with my dad. I had not left for college yet. And we were, or it might have been 81. I don't know. It could have been back on the summer. And we were watching Princess Diana and Prince Charles getting married. So there we are, my dad and I, and we're these guys painting the house, and we all stop. Everybody stops, and we're around the TV, and we're checking it out. It was a big thing. It was a big thing. I could see how people get into it, and it's something positive, and at least until they get divorced. It's a very positive thing, the royal wedding situation. It's the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name is Ken Matthews, 800-282-2882, the EIB network, if you'd like to join the conversation. And we're talking about the impact of the midterms. I happen to be of the idea that the left is moving further left, which is disastrous. And although we don't have enough people voting on the GOP side, I mean, it's tough to get people to come out in the midterms. You know, it's a double-edged sword. If things are going really well, and there's a lot of conservatives that think things are going pretty well now, or if things are going really poorly, it's you just never know. It depends on all kinds of things, personality and the economy, and I think some people think, yeah, I'm going to get out in the general. Let's go to, is this Dion in New Orleans?
Hello, Ken.
Hi. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh
Ken.
Show.
Real quick, we have got to get out to vote. I'm disabled, but I'm going to go vote. Trump needs our vote. Do not get complacent. And by the way, Hillary, I vote who I want to vote for. Don't tell me who to vote for. Can you all imagine what Trump can do without all this on his back? We need to vote the Republican. We got to get his agenda in. We would be able to get everybody confirmed. We'd be able to get his agenda gone. He would be able to accomplish 10 times more than what he's done. That's all I wanted to say. Y'all get out, go vote. Do not sit on your little fannies. We need to get the people in that's going to help Trump. And I would love him just to have, with not everything all over with. I just can't imagine what he can accomplish and just do for our country if he didn't have all this other stuff on his back.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say. Ken, y'all have a great day.
Thank you so much, and God bless you for getting out there and being so energized. And you're so right. That's something, we discuss this all the time. Imagine if every late-night TV platform, every comedy platform, every news platform with the exception of Fox and maybe one or two others, and with the exception of talk radio, Hollywood, academia, imagine if even 30% of the time they were, at the very least, America first. I'm not even going to say pro-Trump, because what Dion was discussing was it's really our agenda. I mean, it considered Trump's agenda, but it's real. I mean, 62 million plus put him in there, and it's amazing. And I'm going to go back to Kanye West for just a second. Kanye West is the tip of an iceberg. He is in a position financially and socially where he can come out and say that. There are a lot of successful men and women of color in this country that they're not in a position to come out and say that without taking a bunch of heat. Kanye can handle the heat. So I think this is part of not a blue wave. I think this is part of people sitting back, looking at their paychecks. They're looking at this North Korea thing. And when you stop all the screaming and yelling and melting down, we've got those three people back without paying a ransom. We didn't have to pay an Obama ransom. And, you know, everybody's talking about Kim Jong-un saying, you know, we're not going to do this now. We're change of heart. Look, that's how negotiations are. Have you ever been in a negotiation to buy a house and 3 days in, we decided we don't want it. But you said, but back and forth it goes. So I have every confidence that the guy who wrote Art of the Deal and Art of the Comeback and the guy who got elected president against two giant parties, I think he can handle Kim Jong-un. Seriously. I'm not worried at all. It's June 12th, isn't it? Isn't that the date? It's also in a neutral location, which a lot of people overlook. It's in a situation, I think, that bodes better for the United States than for North Korea. That was a great call, Dion. You're so right about people getting in the Trump camp especially in Washington. And when in next hour, when we talk to Congressman Lou Barletta, he's a great example of that. He and President Trump have become friends. Congressman Scott Perry's another example of that. Louis Gohmert is going to be in the Limbaugh letter, and that goes without saying. Louis Gohmert is probably one of the greatest allies we have. Congressman Louis Gohmert from Texas. He's one of the greatest allies we have in Congress, not only as Americans, but as conservatives. And Rush will be interviewing him in the upcoming Limbaugh letter. And he wrote an incredible takedown of special counsel Robert Mueller. And I had the privilege of having him on a couple weeks ago, the day it came out. And it's amazing. The fact that the news media is not running with that 48-page detailed analysis of, how can I put it politically correctly, how slimy and dirty Robert Mueller is. Is that? I think that's politically correct enough. Yeah. A liar and a leaker, like Comey. Yeah, so I'm going to keep it like that because that's politically correct. Let's go to Robert in Raleigh, North Carolina, home of the Wolfpack, where I graduated as a C student.
Hello, how are you?
I'm feeling good all under. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Thank you for taking my call, Ken. And just real quickly, I might have to follow you since you changed your name on Twitter. That's a cool name change. My question slash comment is, why is Jeff Sessions allowing them to slow walk all the stuff that Trey Gowdy and Devin Nunes and all them want, and they use excuses like, oh, it's security, you don't have this. When Trey Gowdy and Devin Nunes has the highest security clearance, they can look at that stuff, and they have people who can look at that stuff. And all the stuff that happened and embarrassed itself was all before Jeff Sessions. So why, he recused himself from the Russia investigation, but not from the entire DOJ. Why isn't he going in there and going, okay, guys, we need to get them everything they need, and we need to get this straight? And it's just so frustrating, and it's making Trump and our government look really bad. And people are like, and it's not the rank and file people in the FBI and CIA. It's the upper people that were before Jeff Sessions. So I don't understand why he doesn't clean house and get on the ball.
Robert, that is a great question. I wish I had an answer. I think Jeff Sessions is probably one of the hardest guys to figure out in President Trump's orbit. I just didn't get it. I didn't even get it at the very beginning. I understand that he was one of the first senators to come out for President Trump, and he has a history of the first. Thank you, Bo. Yeah, the first and the only. And I can't help but wonder. I'm glad you brought that up, Bo, because I can't help but wonder if that played a big part in putting Jeff Sessions in there. I was hoping for someone a little younger, a little hungrier, a little more, I don't know, Louis Gohmert-esque, a little over the top in your face. And Jeff Sessions has this conservative Southern gentleman thing going, which is great, but it's obviously we're in a street fight, figuratively speaking. And we had a caller about 30 minutes ago who mentioned, similar to what you said, Robert, about why isn't this moving along faster? And I think because there were some early mistakes made by the Trump administration as far as protocol and how you unfold and unpack some of this information, that they're going extremely slow. So the information that they do peel out will stick. That's the only thing I can see on this, because it seems to me now there was collusion, and there was, which is so amazing. It's like I said, it's going to be a book and it's going to be a movie. You had an attempt to undermine and railroad a Democrat candidate, which you did, Bernie Sanders, and then undermine and railroad Trump and rig it for Hillary. And then when Trump was elected, you had Plan B, undermine Trump and get him impeached within the first year. And this is starting to come to light. But I don't know if Sessions is doing this, but I think it's being slow walked because they want to cross their T's and dot their I's. And I'm praying that there's going to be a big, giant moment, that aha moment for the whole country sooner than later. I'm Ken Matthews in for Rush Limbaugh. We'll be right back with more of your calls. So, it's the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name is Ken Matthews, and I know now why Bo you have so much power and influence, because what you were just saying about Jeff Sessions makes total sense. Your analysis, that maybe Jeff Sessions is the perfect antidote to Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder as far as respect for the law. So I think we'll combine that analysis with, I think someone has finally said, slow down a little, dot the T's or dot the I's, cross the T's, and make sure that when we bring this out, let me ask you this. Do you think there's going to be a big moment coming, like in the fall or something, where we're gonna go, oh my gosh, they were investigating Hillary all this time. They knew all about the Clinton Foundation. They knew all about. You think that's coming? You don't think so? Oh man, you just bummed me out, dude. I was so psyched. Well, then we'll have to do it on our own. Oh, okay. We've got construction going on here, and it sounds like a giant MRI machine in Bo's studio, and it's kind of funny. Not to him though, not to him, because what's that? Oh yeah. Last night, and then we're going to go back to the phones. I was so excited because I found a wonderful theater where the popcorn's only $11 for a medium. That's true. No, I did not go in there with a raincoat. Remember the whole umbrella story I had to tell you? So I went to see Chappaquiddick yesterday when I was in the city, up in the upper 60s on the west side. No, I wasn't wearing a bathing suit. What is wrong with you people? So I saw the movie Chappaquiddick finally. I had been promising my audience back home I was going to review it. I thought it was a very powerful movie. I don't want to tell you how it ends, but I will. The girl dies, and in Ted's car, but I thought it was very, very well done, and it's just amazing when you leave that movie to realize how far that man was able to get. That's what is mind-boggling. When you have an organized effort to change history, it is amazing how far you can get. That should be an entire semester in a history class. Ted Kennedy should be an entire semester. A guy who drove a woman off a bridge and let her suffocate, drown in the car, and then lie about it and change the story about 8 times, is now recognized as the Lion of the Senate. And if that doesn't tell you what a well-oiled PR machine can do, all of a sudden, the C- and Ds that I got my freshman year of college, they look like nothing. Nothing. Because nobody was killed. Nobody was killed. But I thought the movie was good. And then on my way home, I told you I bought the umbrella. I should have bought the umbrella on my way in because we had those storms last night. And everybody's so shocked that there's a Lowe's and a Home Depot and all that stuff in New York. Why? There's everything in Manhattan. Everything. It just looks different. That's the thing that's so, like a multiplex. And this is I sound like I've never been in a city before. The multiplex is about 6 stories tall, and there's a different theater on each top. They stack everything. Yeah, and they put them underneath. And did you know, I don't know if you knew this, Bo, did you know there's a train that goes underground here? Yeah, that's incredible, the way that works. 800-282-2882. Let's go to Blaze in Washington. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I just have one quick thing I wanted to say. I think that the blue wave that's supposed to be coming is a little bit of a myth, and I think that it's our job to try to push the left even further left and bring out the best they have as far as the leftist crazies. I think there's never been a better time to run against the left as a conservative when you're running against people that are anti-gun, anti-free speech, they're pro-illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. Those are things we can always win on. I think in the past there's certain issues that the media has been able to warp that it's very hard for conservatives to fight against. But these issues are so plain that anybody with a sane mind would vote in the right direction.
That is a great point. And I think it's a wave. I just don't think it's a blue wave. I think it's probably a leftist wave, and they're celebrating it as a blue wave during the midterms. But I think what's going to happen, they're going to put people in place, and then they're going to be stuck with them in the general. And just what you just said, Blaze, how do you get back from being left of Bernie?
You don't.
Yeah, you never come back from that, because a socialist is a socialist, and the fact that we have 4 legitimate Socialist Party of America candidates that were elected in the midterms. This is that knee-jerk reaction to Trump. I think this is a knee-jerk reaction to somebody going, America's best, America should be first, we need to worry about our own jobs and our own security, etc. More calls and a lot more coming up. Just after the hour, we're going to talk to Congressman Lou Barletta, and we're going to take a quick break. The number is 800-282-2882. I'm Ken Matthews. We'll be right back. The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews, and the number's 800-282-2882. Do we have time for a call here? Okay, good. Then I will just, good in that we'll get you after the top of the hour, and I'm going to mention that Congressman Lou Barletta is coming up right after 1 o'clock. Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon across the planet on the Rush Limbaugh Show. 800-282-2882 on the EIB network. And it's my pleasure to have with us Congressman Lou Barletta of Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Congressman.
Good to talk to you today, Ken.
Congratulations on the win. I saw it coming. Now everybody's counting on you to beat Senator Bob Casey.
Well, this is going to be one of the biggest races in the country. Bob Casey is the biggest obstacle standing in the way of President Trump's agenda. He votes with Elizabeth Warren 90% of the time, Ken. You know Pennsylvania. Bob Casey would be a good senator for the people of California or maybe Massachusetts, but not for Pennsylvania.
So when did you think it was locked in last night?
Well, what's pretty good is in the weeks leading up to the election last night, talking to people around the state, they were really getting energized. I know the national media just to believe that the Democrats are so very energized, and this is going to be a big blue wave, and I just don't see that in Pennsylvania. At least the Trump support that was there, that sent him to the White House, maybe even stronger today. So I feel really good about this. I think this is a seat that could make the difference in the direction of the country, and I'm looking forward to November.
Well, I remember 2016, just the energy that was taking place, and you were on the show then as well, and I remember people referring to Pennsylvania as a traditional swing state, and I think it moved from swing state to the swing state, and I still think Pennsylvania will be pivotal to move President Trump's agenda forward, because we've proven we can do it, and you're a great example of that.
And I said last night, if you're a Democrat in Pennsylvania that voted for Donald Trump, you can't vote for Bob Casey because you're throwing your vote away. You're actually voting against what you wanted in Donald Trump, and that's where I think this becomes a problem race for Bob Casey. And Ken, he was one of 5 senators who said that Donald Trump should resign. So if the Democrats gain control, they're going to try to impeach him. So. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen.
Which brings me to my next question. I don't know what your involvement is with what's going on today on the Hill. I know Jim Jordan from Ohio from the House Oversight Committee just got out of some hearings. What is going on the Hill now as far as the direction of getting more information about some of the things that the Democrats did to manipulate this whole Russian story? I know that you're one of the people that have been paying close attention to this up there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, hats off to Trey Gowdy and Bob Goodlatte and Jim Jordan and Mark Rose, who did a great job, and Devin Nunes, of course. I mean, we can't say enough about what he's doing, and really shining a light on what's going on here. This has been a witch hunt for 2 years now, Ken, and they're just going down rabbit holes until they can try to find something, and finally. our conference, the Republican conference, is now stepping up and shedding light that the American people can see what's going on. They can see what some members here have known, but I think it's important for the entire country to see what exactly they're doing.
I think one of the things you and President Trump bonded on early on is your record with illegal immigration, going as far back as Hazleton, and people said, well, you can never be mayor of Hazleton, and you're not going to be a congressman, and here you keep moving forward and moving forward. And to me, this is an indication that Pennsylvania is becoming more Trumpian. What's your take on the latest development with illegal immigration, especially with the DHS director? I think she had some great things to say yesterday after the meeting with the president. She
did, and this is really personal for me. As you know, Ken, I was the first mayor in the country to stand up back in 2006 and fight illegal immigration. I was sued by illegal aliens. I fought them all the way to the Supreme Court. Became a national story, and I've been fighting this issue here. If we only had some more backbone and members who are willing to stand up and do something, but we have in the White House, and the president going after sanctuary cities. That was the first bill I introduced when I got here, because I was a mayor that was sued for wanting to enforce the rule of law in America. And these mayors are not only making mockery of our laws, but they're putting American citizens at risk and in danger. And the president's taking a strong stance against it, and hopefully, we have a House and a Senate that's going to stand with him. I know I will. What
do you think Senator Casey of Pennsylvania will be running on? I mean, I know he's got about $10 million stockpiled for the race, and that's just like in his couch in his car. But what is he going to be running on?
Well, I'm hoping that he's going to run on that he voted for Obamacare. And, one vote would be the difference. If I was there instead of Casey, that would be gone. I hope he runs on the fact that he's happy to bail out Wall Street and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, but he voted no to the tax cuts for the American people. I hope he votes on the fact that he supports sanctuary cities and voted twice against defunding sanctuary cities. And I hope he votes. He runs on the fact that he voted down Kate's Law. This is not the values of the people in Pennsylvania. And if he's not going to run on it, then I'm going to make sure that people in Pennsylvania know this, because as I said, he is one of the more liberal senators in the Senate, and that's just not the right fit for Pennsylvania. So if he doesn't want to talk about it, we will.
When you look at the upcoming competition between you and Senator Casey, who would Senator Casey at this point be able to, how normally I can see the president coming to campaign for you as he's done that before. But who would who would Senator Casey bring in? Who's left on the Democrat side that has any credibility that could come to the state and, help his campaign and not hurt it? Is there anybody left that can help him out?
Well, I hope he brings in Hillary Clinton. He may try to bring in former President Barack Obama. He was very close. It helped Obama with the policies that we have today. He may bring him in. Joe Biden is an old Scranton.
I always forget about Joe. You're right. Yeah, he could come in. So
Joe will come in. The important thing is, in this race, for everyone to know, Bob Casey has over $10 million. So, he's going to be well-funded, and they're going to fight like heck to try to save him. So it's going to be a big race, but it's going to take a lot of money on our side to try. We're never going to catch up to him, but we don't need to. We just need to make sure we have enough money to get our message out and identify and let people know exactly who Bob Casey really is.
What do you think, if you had to give President Trump a letter grade on North Korea so far, what type of letter grade would you give him?
Wow, how could we even, first of all, we all know we can't trust, we have to be very careful with North Korea, whether or not we can trust what he's saying. But what the president has done already is just incredible, Ken. This is the Korean War, and the fact that he has North Korea and South Korea not only talking but meeting. The fact that he was able to get 4 hostages home, unfortunately one did not make it, but the fact that he was able to do that and even begin this discussion of North Korea and the United States talking, he's done something that 3-4 presidents haven't been able to do in the past, and you just can't say enough. But again, we got to make sure we're careful going forward because North Korea can't be trusted. But I wouldn't want to be sitting on the other side of a negotiating table with Donald Trump. I could tell you because I know he's going to get a good deal for us.
Do you think Kim Jong-un is bluffing now, just to kind of rattle the cage, see where President Trump's head is at?
I do. He may be trying to act like Trump. Remember, Donald Trump said, "Listen, if I don't like the way these talks are going, I'm going to get up and walk away." And but again, I don't think bluffing Donald Trump's going to work out very good for Kim Jong-un. I really don't. I think it would be in his interest to sit down and talk with the president. Their economy is in shambles right now. They probably can't go much longer. The sanctions will do to them what it was doing to Iran before the horrible Iran deal that Bob Casey voted for and President Obama gave us. So it would be in North Korea and Kim Jong-un's interest to sit down and negotiate with President Trump.
Well, before we wrap up, where could people go to learn more about your thoughts on illegal immigration and other stuff?
Well, they can go to LouBarletta.com. We're going to need a lot of help. This is a seat that we could change. One vote, one seat in the Senate could make the difference for Donald Trump's agenda, President Trump's agenda, or going back to Barack Obama. And we're going to need a lot of help to keep up with this. But this is a seat that we're going to win.
Well, thank you again for calling in, Congressman Lou Barletta of Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your win last night, and I will see you back in the district.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Good talking to you.
Take care. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. If you'd like to join the conversation, we have a stack of calls coming up. Congressman Barletta brought up this whole concept of, we've been talking about this throughout the show, of the Democrat Party moving so far to the left, and several very insightful callers have picked up on that as well. I don't know if they can come back from that move that far left, and this is good. This is a good thing. So as you watch this not only unfold against some of the former blue states or purple states, as they say, just across the country, like even out in Portland, Oregon, I guess some social radical community organizer just won a primary. That's good, because I think it's obvious the country's pretty much had it with community organizers. I'm Ken Matthews in for Rush Limbaugh. We'll be right back. You know who else I love? Is it Kirstjen Nielsen? Is that her name, the DHS? Department of Homeland Security. She was being interviewed yesterday, and she is so bold, and she's fresh, but she's so bold and crisp in how she talks about the law and conservatism, and it's amazing. Well, I don't really pay attention to looks like you do, Bo. I go straight for the mind. Normally, I don't even watch the screen. I just listen to the, like when I watch the Laura Ingraham show. I usually just, I don't pay attention to that. Why? Oh, you were asking me if, yes. Well, I think so. Anyway, gosh. So I think she does a great job talking about the law is the law. There's never any hesitation with her. I love it. People are, who's the woman, Kamala Harris, right? Isn't she like, she's like, right, but she's like everybody says, oh my God, she's the new Obama, the young, hip, and whatever. And she tries to muscle everyone by, I don't want to say harassing, but badgering them with questions. Like she did with Gina Haspel, the CIA. I remember she did the same thing. Kamala did the same thing to Kirsten. And you know what's amazing? Something else that's being overlooked. All these strong, independent women that know the law and love and respect the law and put America first. That is so refreshing around the Trump administration. And the DHS director is a great example because she won't even mince words. She knows exactly what the law is. So what did she say the other day? She said, Kamala tried to get her to fall into the trap of you're separating families if you arrest people here illegally. And Kirsten said something along the lines, well, how is that any different from the normal arrest of parents? How is that any different? And it's just things like that, observations she makes, so common sense. Like, for example, why are people even in the country illegally? And why should they be treated like they're not? That alone should start the process of deportation or incarceration or whatever. So very exciting to see these women playing these roles. It brings back memories of, because I'm a big fan of Condi Rice. And I can't wait till Gina Haspel is confirmed, hopefully later this week. She picked up a couple Dems for in her corner for CIA director. I think it was Warner and Manchin out of Virginia and West Virginia. So I don't know why people get so offended by waterboarding to begin with. People get very offended by that, and I don't know why. Let me explain why. Or let me explain why I'm confused. 3 terrorists were waterboarded. 3 terrorists were waterboarded. And waterboarding one in particular led us to Osama bin Laden. But why would you get offended by that? Let's say you're a 58-year-old, white, male, liberal history professor in the Midwest. Why are you upset that we would take somebody that's blowing people up? See, these are the questions you have to ask people because you never get straight answers. Why would waterboarding upset you? The answer is not, well, why don't you get waterboarded? No, that's not the answer. The answer is, why does it upset you? If there are people out there, if there's killers out there that want to kill innocent people around the world, and we've captured a killer, and now we're trying to figure out how to make the killer talk, and we're not using drills, and we're not using machetes, and we're not using horrible electrodes and all the stuff you see in all the movies, like The Bourne Identity and James Bond. We're waterboarding, which, from what I understand, is very uncomfortable, according to one of my friends who's in special ops, because he had to go through it. But still, that said, why is it so offensive to people? Why is it so offensive to people on the left when some of the worst people in the world, terrorists, get waterboarded? I still haven't figured it out yet. But they're the first person. They're the first person to stand up for that. I don't get that. Well, what are you doing waterboarding these people? Well, why wouldn't you waterboard these people? 800-282-2882. Needless to say, when Gina Haspel, when it was revealed she was involved in the waterboarding of that back in, 2002, she had my vote right there. I mean, that's just icing on the cake. Not only a smart, intelligent, conservative woman, but a woman who condones waterboarding? How can I not vote for that? 800-282-2882. Joe in Columbus, New Jersey.
How you doing, Ken?
Welcome, sir. My birth state.
Kamala Harris got mule kicked yesterday, plain and simple.
Wasn't it awesome?
That was beautiful. I keep trying to wrap my head around the potential irony and the hypocrisy with Obama's chiding of Trump with regard to rigging an election. The hypocrisy is obvious. The irony, if it turns out that he was, in fact, involved in it, do we get to look at him and his little finger wagging and say, guess what, Prez, you were wrong. You were right. You were right. You can't successfully tamper with an election.
It is
what you thought about it.
Well, thanks for calling, Joe. I think that all the chiding and the remarks and the comments and the narratives were all based on Hillary winning. There is a smugness about the Obama inner circle, and that's where it comes from. Thank you. What a treat. This is always fun. It's always fun trying to learn how to use this chair in here. Actually, here we go. All right. Okay. It's like a toddler chair. You know those toddler chairs that you? Yeah. Hold on. Don't look at me like that, Bo. I'm not going to spill anything. And make sure my food is soft. 800-282-2882. I want to. No, I don't want you to chew it for me. I want to go back to Joe from my birth state of New Jersey. By the way, very quick. I was born in Jersey. My family and I escaped in 1966, right after they switched governments and the security was still lax. So we were able to escape to Florida at the time. But I do have family still living under the New Jersey regime. So a little shout out to my New Jersey family and friends. But Joe from New Jersey brought up an interesting point. And one of the reasons I believe that President Obama and Hillary were so, I guess you can call them audacious or bombastic or so confident in their narratives and their comments about Trump and whatever, they really believed that Hillary had it locked up. And this is coming off of 8 years of Obama. Now, let this sink in for a sec, because you know, especially if you're listening to this show, you know as well as I do that the news media did not give fair, deep, objective coverage to everything from Fast and Furious to Philadelphia voter intimidation, Benghazi, Iran, Obamacare, Syria, green energy bankruptcies, Cuba, and I could go on and on and on with the things that President Obama did. Maybe it started out as a good idea, then it went sideways, but the news media was never there to follow up. They were never there to say, "Oh, this went wrong. This failed. You cannot keep your doctor. The premiums are going to go up." So the news media was never really around to hold President Obama accountable because they loved him so much. There's two groups of people in the mainstream news media. People that really love Obama and people that are afraid of Obama. Those are on the left. And then the 7 other people that want to do investigative reporting of what's going on, whatever. But you've got people that love him so much, well, we can't report that because he's so wonderful. It would ruin his legacy. And then people that are just afraid of him. Like people are afraid of the Clintons. There's a lot of people that are afraid of the Clintons. We'll save that for another day. So President Obama went 8 years knowing that no matter what he said about a policy, no matter how messed up it was or how the biggest fail it was, no matter what, he could get away with saying it. And I believe he took that overconfidence into the 2016 election, just like Hillary did. That's why all of a sudden, when Trump won, everything went sideways. Because even if a moderate Republican won, you might remember Karl Rove predicted it was either going to be Marco Rubio, John Kasich, or Jeb Bush. You remember? I do, because I have the tape. And he said, Donald Trump will never win. He called him an idiot. That's when I knew he would win. Anyway, so President Obama had 8 years of incredible news coverage. Well, things have changed now considerably. So he didn't think any of this would be covered. Think about it. If Hillary was elected, it would have continued. Just like Fast and Furious. No one's going to go down that road. No one's going to dig deeper into Benghazi. The Clinton Foundation's a great example. There's so many examples of things that really are just not right. And some are illegal. But for 8 years, the administration knew no one's going to run with this. The New York Times isn't going to front page Fast and Furious. They're not going to do an in-depth analysis of how we messed up Benghazi and then we lied and covered it up. No one's even going to mess with that. Then Trump gets elected, and now all bets are off. All bets are off. So I think it's going to be decades of information coming out. I said to someone the other day because I saw the Chappaquiddick movie last night, and I said, so what? It takes 60 years for the truth to come out about the Kennedys, and it comes out in a movie. So don't be surprised if 50 years from now you see a movie about how badly President Obama messed up Iran or Syria or the Middle East or Venezuela or the economy or health care. And I could go on. Yeah, it is going to be a long movie. It's going to be a very long movie. Let's go to Susie in, oh, my gosh, it's right around the corner. Palmyra, PA. How are you, Susie?
I'm doing good, Ken. I listen to you every day.
Well, thank you so much.
Right after Rush is done, I follow up with you, and you're just great.
Thank you.
I was so glad you had Lou Barletta on, and I just want to say to any Pennsylvanians out there that are listening that this race is so important. And I think a sure way to beat Bob Casey is to point out the huge difference between he and his father. A lot of people just assume because his father was a governor, a Democratic governor, and had a lot of name recognition that Bob Casey Jr. is like his father. His father was a staunch pro-life, pro-gun populist. Mm-hmm. And Bob Casey Jr. hides behind that. He's just an empty suit who wants people to think he's like his father, and he is nothing like his father. So I just wanted to point that out, and because I know a lot of people who still say, oh, he's pro-life, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. So I just wanted to point that out. I know Lou didn't bring that up, and a lot of people forget Bob Casey. I know I'm old.
Such a great point.
He was banned, Bob Casey Sr. was banned from the Democratic Convention to speak there in 1992 because of his pro-life stand.
I do remember that. I remember that. Susie, thank you.
And so many times I just want to say to Bob Casey Jr., shame on you. Your father would be he would be rolling over in his grave to know.
That is such an astute observation because Bob Sr., Bob Casey's dad, had so much respect on both sides of the aisle. And that is a brand that Senator Casey currently has been able to exploit. And let's face it, how many times do people, even in my own area, will say this to me that sometimes it takes forever when they send a letter or something to Senator Casey. Now, I don't know, how often that happens, but I get that sometimes people will call the show and they'll say, gosh, I can't, where's Senator Casey? Look, if you have a legacy like Senator Casey's father, who I never had the pleasure of meeting, but was quite a guy, respected on both sides of the aisle, as Susie just pointed out, and you can ride that reputation, why even come up for air and show your differences? Just hope that people keep making the presumption, like Susie said, that you're like your dad. But he was I would say a Reagan Democrat. I would say he was a Reagan Democrat. I mean, it was interesting. And that was a different time, was it not? Isn't it interesting that now the comparison is between you look at Senator Casey and his father, but then you look at how far left the party has lurched and how radical it's been getting. Do we have time to take another call here? Or do we? Okay, let's do that. Let's go to Michael in how do you pronounce that? Is that San Marcos, Texas?
That's correct.
You are on the Rush Limbaugh show. I'm so glad you called, sir.
Thank you. What an honor it is. And I want to take a moment to say thank you for filling in for Rush. You are very intelligent, and I love your humor.
Well, thank you. Is this my dad? No, this isn't Dad. No, I just want to make sure.
Listen, I wanted to I've heard a lot of folks call in and wonder why President Trump isn't taking measures to release information or to redact information or to take measures on revealing certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met the man, but I've sat back and I've studied him, and I believe he has two qualities. Number one, he is an excellent negotiator, and in order to be that, to be successful in that, you have to have patience. And I believe what Mr. Trump is doing is he is sitting back, he is being patient, and letting all this information come out on its own. And essentially you have these people hang themselves.
You know, that's a very interesting take on it, because remember the handful of times that happened. I'm trying to think the last big news cycle where CNN had to do the redactions. They had like 7 last year. But there were a couple things that were so outrageous, and Trump just let them hang out there. And then the news people had to say, whoops. That was a very interesting observation. Maybe that's it. I mean, I've read Art of the Deal, and I read Art of the Comeback. Art of the Comeback is my favorite book of that series of all of Trump's books, Art of the Comeback. But thanks for the call, Michael. I think you were right on with that. And I think we all could be patient. I think it's interesting. He's only been president, 17 months? Is it about 17 months? And look at what he's got done. 800-282-2882. I'm Ken Matthews in for Rush Limbaugh. Oh, that would be my cue there. I see. Okay, now I got it. Now I get it's like a pattern. Okay. And then the music, and then you do the hand wave. I got it. The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews. Coming up, a very interesting story, and I was just talking to Bo about it, about debt forcing a library that has to do with one of our greatest former presidents. They may have to sell that president's artifacts. And, I was thinking another reason, maybe, you'll get some donations or something, because I think history is so important. And so that's coming up. In the meantime, you're listening to the EIB network all over the planet, 800-282-2882. Congressman Scott Perry, the Freedom Caucus, also Homeland Security Committee, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't have in front of me, but it's a lot of really important stuff because he's got all kinds of fancy clearances, and he's also a brigadier general in the Pennsylvania National Guard, and he can fly every helicopter in the American arsenal, which is very cool. That's all coming up on the Rush Limbaugh Show in the next hour. In the meantime, let's go to Dan in Traverse City, Michigan. Dan, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Thank you, Ken. I just want to make a general point, and I want to frame it where President Trump's button is bigger than Mueller's button. And we're at a point now where the facts are out. We know that Mueller and the Justice Department is where all the crimes were committed. Trump and his campaign people, they're all innocent. The House just finished their 14-month investigation. So Trump needs to hold a press conference. He needs to fire Rosenstein and Mueller. He needs to pardon Cohen, Manafort, and Flynn on the basis that they were only prosecuted because they were related to Trump and the illegal action toward Trump in the campaign. And we're not going to lose the House and Senate. There's no political muscle that they're going to have to do a damn thing about it.
Well, that's an interesting take on it. My only concern, Dan, is are there enough people on the GOP side with the courage to back up the president if he were to do that? My fear is not so much the Democrats. My fear is people in the GOP would turn on the president heading into the fall elections, to the midterms. That would be my concern.
Well, could I respond to that, Ken?
Sure. Yeah.
Here's my thought on that. We have the consistent 5 Republican senators, that always are anti-Trump, never Trump. Even if we were to lose the House Intelligence Committee has already said there was no collusion. So if the Democrats took control, tried to do an impeachment, we could have the House Republicans be our lawyers there for impeachment, because they've already said he's innocent. So there's no way they'd be able to show in a House investigation that he was guilty. But even if they did, even if we lost the 5 senators in the Senate in the impeachment thing, There's no way they're going to get another 22 Republican senators to say this innocent president should be impeached. Because the only way he could ever be impeached or lose his whole bet if he fired everyone tomorrow is if he was, in fact, guilty. And, of course, the facts are he's not.
Yeah, he'd have to be impeachable, and that's the funniest thing about when Maxine Waters goes out partying, yelling, impeach 45. There's nothing to impeach him on. What do you impeach him on? Good point. 800-282-2882. Do we have time to go to Rick in Harrisburg? What's that? Okay. I can't hear you, by the way, in my headpiece. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Rick.
Hey, how are you, Ken?
Good. Welcome.
I appreciate it. So here was my question about Trump. I consider myself an independent in the truest sense of the word. I wasn't upset he won. Did not like Hillary, not a fan. But I see a trend. I know that there was an article in Forbes, a Michigan State University professor found between 1997 and 2015, there was $21 trillion unaccounted for in unauthorized military spending.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been Clinton, Bush, and then subsequently Obama. Now, $21 trillion, that's equal to our entire national debt. In 2015 alone, Obama spent twice the federal budget on unauthorized military spending.
Right.
So when I hear people say, like, oh, the military's hollowed out or, the budget's not big enough, we could theoretically have zero debt if they would have only spent the money they were authorized to spend. Theoretically, clearly the money comes from different avenues, but I'm just wondering, do you think Trump's going to continue the pattern? You mentioned before that, the movie about Obama would involve the litany of countries that he's invaded and forced regime change, and I agree with you.
Well, I didn't say evade and force regime change. I just said I think Obama was a disaster in foreign policy. Let me answer that question when we get back, because we have a break. We're coming right back. Okay, before we run out of this hour on the Rush Limbaugh Show, I wanted to address Rick's question. I didn't want you to think I was just going to the break to go to the break. I do not think Trump will continue the level of spending, especially reckless spending, that we had with not only Obama and Clinton, but also George W. Bush. Because I think he approaches it differently. I don't think he approaches it like a politician or a bureaucrat. And I think he's proven that he'll cut as well. People of Earth, thanks for listening to the show today. The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken. This is the EIB Network. What a great day to be an American. So much stuff going on the day after the primaries, heading into an exciting midterm. Now, before I go back to the phones, I want to mention what I teased before, because I think this is important. And I know there are people in this audience that appreciate history as much as Rush, and many of us do. And the foundation that supports the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum says, according to the Associated Press, it may have to sell artifacts if it cannot pay off a decade-old loan that financed items related to President Lincoln. Example, the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Foundation revealed it owes $10 million on a 2007 loan used to buy a collection that includes the stovepipe hat that Lincoln purportedly wore, blood-stained gloves he wore the night he was assassinated, and a book from 1824 containing the first known example of his handwriting. The foundation paid $25 million for that collection. They borrowed $23 million, and the note comes due a year from now, give or take. So they face significant uncertainty about whether the foundation's lender will be able to refinance the loan. But could you imagine if you had to sell that? I mean, that's the last thing I would sell, would be the hat. What I would do is I'd sell the book, the 1824 book. Yes, Bo. Oh, that was good. Did you say that on the air or just in my headpiece? Oh, my God, that was so good. Bo thinks that OJ would buy the bloody gloves. I don't know. He's out now, isn't he? Poor thing. That was good. See, the timing would have been better if you just came on the air. You said in my headphones. And anyway, but I wouldn't sell the hat. I wouldn't sell the gloves. I wouldn't sell anything Lincoln-y. I would sell the 1824 book, and then I'd put a fake in, and who's going to be the wiser? They do it at Disney World. Seriously, people, $25 million? We're pretty sure that this is the first example of his handwriting. Dude, my doctor can forge that. We'll put it in there. Psh. Seriously. But this will be good. You got a little free publicity and maybe, but to think it's the official presidential library museum is as long as we have enough money for Obama and Clinton's. That's all I care about because that's really important. 800-282-2882. Let's go to Ray in Atlanta, Georgia. Hi, Ray. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hi, Ken. Thank you for taking my call. Listen, I really enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed the callers. Listen, there's a difference in collusion and corruption and conspiracy. And what we have on the Democratic part from the head down is conspiracy. Now, listen, I think what President Trump's waiting on is for the IG to bring out his report. And no matter what it says, then I think Trump's going to go after all of them.
I think that's a good plan. I mean, certainly there's a lot more to come out. Are you concerned, Ray, that the Department of Justice has delayed the release of the most basic documents for months? Does that concern you as an American that the Department of Justice is holding back that information from Congress?
Ken, it don't only concern me, it angers the hell out of me. Because, see, they owe it to our Congress as overseeing them to do that. And these people, they don't care spit about the law. They think they are all above the law. Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Obama, Clinton, Hillary. I mean, you name them, Lynch, all of them. They have ran the biggest conspiracy, and I say conspiracy, on America that's ever been.
Well, it's
not collusion, it's conspiracy, and they're all in it together.
It's amazing. Thank you for calling, Ray. It's amazing what you can get away with when you know that the news media is either going to look the other way. See, the news media is not necessarily always in on it, but the news media is always cheering for their guy or gal. We saw it with Hillary. We saw it with Obama. So it's one extreme to the other. You could have Obamacare blow up, the wheels come off, and the car, the car flips 80 times and goes off the cliff, and the media will say, it's a fender bender. And yet they're going to be telling you that, President Trump puts ketchup on ice cream. So for 8 years, we had this. And all those names you just mentioned, Ray, every single one of those people has a history in doing this, in delaying, or in the case of Mueller's a great example. He has a history of targeting political opponents of his superior, whether it's the president, whether he was an attorney, it didn't matter. He has a history, and so does Comey. They have a history of, what do you want us to do? We'll help make it happen. And we saw this on steroids with candidate Trump, who was illegally surveilled, which to me is the most frightening thing. That if a sitting president like Obama has a problem with your ideology or has an issue with you, he can put the word out and people can trump things up, no pun intended, and start listening in and checking you out. The other thing that the news media, I thought, would be much more upset about, and that was the way that the Obama administration limited freedom of speech. They were probably the most abusive to freedom of speech, and they were factually the least transparent administration. But again, when the news media is your cheerleader, they're never going to even investigate that. And I think that does a disservice to the voters. Let's go to David in Henderson, Nevada. David, you're on the EIB network.
Hi. How you doing, Ken?
I'm feeling
in
great.
Iowa right now.
Iowa. How's it going there?
Yeah. Oh, it's going along. Just driving along. I'm an OTR truck driver.
Ah, okay.
And I see a lot of the country. So I see a lot of people out there. Otherwise, where the media is saying that there's a lot of discourse with against Trump. I don't see it. But the reason why I was calling was the AG Jeff Sessions. Okay, a lot of people are asking why he's not doing anything. And what I'm thinking is, I have a lot of time to think about it. I think the reason why he hasn't been fired, okay, as with a lot of other turnover in the Trump administration, is there could be an underlying investigation that they fortunately have been able to keep under wraps. And like another caller said, I think Trump is being real patient and letting all this stuff play out to have everybody else hang themselves. And then all that stuff is going to be put into a report, or something's going to come out from Sessions after the Russia investigation is complete, which I feel is going to be pretty soon with everything that's been going wrong with all the court requests for stuff that Mueller's been like the Russian indictments. I think the wheels are coming off of it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more as far as the wheels coming off. And, you know, Bo has a similar theory about Jeff hanging behind the scenes, following the law, being patient, not being reckless. And then, Attorney General Jeff Sessions comes forward. I think one of the most remarkable aspects of this entire time in history, this entire story, is the fact that we have President Trump, an outsider, in the truest sense of the word. I mean, a bull in a china shop, never even elected to the PTA or the school board or anything, okay? He comes in, and he's only been in for 17 months, and take a list of his campaign promises, which I've done, and compare it to what he's done so far, and he's already ahead of the last four presidents as far as keeping campaign promises, whether it's the Paris agreement, the Iran, whatever you want to call that was, no matter what it was, he's already ahead. The tax cut, the cleaning out the Veterans Administration. And I think that gives President Trump leverage because there's so much stuff swirling around. You hear people, especially on MSNBC, where a lot of the men break down in tears often because of what's going on, like Chris Matthews. And they don't understand. How does he do it? What's wrong with these idiot Trump supporters? There's nothing wrong with us. We hired him to do the job he's doing. The fact that you're angry with him and you don't like him doesn't matter. He's doing the job we asked him to do. Now, if we were 17 months in and there was not a tax cut and he put a liberal on the Supreme Court and Kim Jong-un was making fun of us like he used to make fun of Obama, or world leaders would roll their eyes at Trump like they used to at Obama, it would be different. But that's not happening. So as a Trump voter, for people who wonder why do so many millions of us still support Trump, we see a guy who we hired. Officially, he started January 2017. And so far, we have our little weekly employee meetings, and he's doing what he said he would do and what we're asking him to do, despite the childish behavior from grown men and women that should be working with him in the cesspool called Washington, D.C. And I certainly didn't mean to insult the word cesspool. 18 minutes past the hour. I'm Ken Matthews in for Rush Limbaugh. We'll be right back. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews. Always thrilled to be here. Thanks again to the EIB team, the web team, the sound team, the audio team, the salad team, the movie team, the Bo Snerdley entourage, the rest of the team. What am I doing after I leave? I don't know why. I don't know. It's funny. I always recharge my battery when I'm in New York because I do like New York. I just can't afford to park in it, but I love it. I mean, it's a great city. But I was talking to a guy last night. You know what his rent is? $5,300 for his rent. And I said, so. Well, no, I was gonna do it. No, it's per month. Oh, you're saying that's good? Yeah, I think as far as middle America goes, $5,300 a month rent is a little steep. Unless Stormy Daniels is involved, I would think. Why? We can make jokes about that. Everybody else does. I'm Ken Matthews, and the number's 800-282-2882. And very quickly, because we were talking about this before, people say, those of you, first they couldn't understand why we supported Trump. Those of us that got on the Trump train back in June of 2015, which I did, and Eric Trump will vouch for that. Then now they can't understand, I can't believe you still support Trump. And it's because he's getting things done. That's why. See, it would be only Kool-Aid if he was failing. For example, let's say Trump was failing like Obama did on Gitmo, Obamacare, the Middle East, things like that. If you're still rallying around a guy and the economy's bad and unemployment's bad and food stamps are up and Obamacare is failing, but you're still a big fan because he's so awesome. He's so awesome. That's Kool-Aid. But just because you find President Trump abrasive, how can you look at the current stock market numbers, unemployment numbers, job participation numbers, and all the other indices that are out there right now? For example, I think consumer confidence is the highest it's been in 25 years. Right direction, wrong direction is on the uptick. Now, if all that was not there, I can assure you many of us would have a different take on President Trump. But this is a guy, again, if you were electing a best friend or you were electing a pastor or you were electing whatever, but we weren't. We were electing a guy to kind of fix what bureaucrats and politicians have broken and do it commonsensically and explain it one-on-one and explain it like you would to your neighbor. Why are we spending so much on this? Why do people get deported 7 times and they have 4 different driver's licenses and nothing happens to them? These are simple questions. This guy's getting it done. Let's go to Scott, Iron Mountain, Michigan. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Howdy, great show. Hey, here's the deal. The first night Donald Trump was in a debate, I told my dad, there's our next president and CEO all in one.
Good for you. And that was the first one against.
That was the first debate. I said, Dad, there he is. There's our next president and a CEO. He said, CEO. I said, yeah. We don't really need a president right now in this country. We need a CEO. We need somebody that knows how to run the biggest business in the world. It's called the United States of America. We're losing it.
Well, Scott, I think.
That being said,
yeah, I think he's turned it around.
Well, I know he is. That's why I voted for him. I know what business is all about. I got one, and I'm losing mine right now because it's called an ELD, electronic log device. It's killing this country right now. And
okay.
Truck drivers, it's like wearing an ankle bracelet. I can't work more than 14 hours a day now because of customers.
Wow.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. They tell me when I got to go to bed. They tell me when I got to wash my hands. It's like, really? I've been doing this for 30 years. I've got 4 million miles. I've never had an accident. And you're trying to tell me how to run my life?
Again,
you're taking loads away from me every day.
It's over-regulation.
Yeah, exactly. Government regulation. And you know who's in charge of that? Mitch McConnell's wife. She's the Department of Transportation CEO.
I couldn't agree with you more on that, Scott. Talk about one of the biggest conflicts of interest. That's for another day, but that is a big conflict of interest, and that's another reason why the, quote, old guard, this connection needs to be moved out. It's interesting that you brought up owning a business, because when I was at the State of the Union address, in my box where I was sitting, there were about a dozen of us, and there was an older gentleman from Michigan. He was the biggest Trump fan I had ever been even near in my whole life. He was probably close to 80, I'm guessing, because he was talking about different points of his business and how he's still involved with it and how many employees he has, et cetera, from the Kalamazoo area, I believe. And it was like he was a 17-year-old kid. His level of excitement and energy as a businessman for Trump. And this was at the State of the Union address. So I run into business owners all the time, Democrat business owners that say, you know, I gotta tell you, I didn't think it would be going this well. I gotta hand it to you. Seems to be working. What an awesome day on the EIB network. It's always great to be here. And what a pleasure to have Congressman Scott Perry on the Rush Limbaugh Show as our guest host. How you doing?
I am unbelievably thrilled. I've been a Rush listener for a very, very long time, and this is truly, look, I'm not you. I'm not sitting in the seat behind the golden EIB microphone, but, hey, this is as close as I can get. I'm doing pretty well. Well,
I know that all heck is breaking loose up there. This is such an exciting moment. I know last night the primaries went well out in our neck of the woods in PA. For people just tuning in, Congressman Scott Perry is from Pennsylvania. You're also a member of the Freedom Caucus, and you hang with all those folks that we like Jim Jordan and Jeffords and Louis, the rest of them.
Yep. Some of my best friends in Congress were in here fighting the swamp every single day, and I hate to look, there's a lot of well-meaning people here, but bad things also happen in Washington, D.C., and I would say this too, Ken, if people don't realize it, over the course of many decades, but really amplified in the last 8 years of the Obama administration, when President Obama said he wanted to transform the country, him and Secretary Clinton, who was then going to plan to be the president, were going to really put the nail in the coffin of our country. And I dare to think that many of these people don't really understand, haven't read the Constitution. They take an oath to it, but they don't follow that oath. And they, and the Obama administration in particular infiltrated or put a lot of people in place in some of the well-respected and long-held institutions in our nation. And they have, unfortunately, corrupted it to an unprecedented level. And you're seeing that right now, whether it's policy that has to be rolled back or whether it's actions that you see taken at the Justice Department and places that I have revered my whole life, like the FBI. You're seeing it happen right now. This is the evidence of that infiltration of a different mindset that is not congruent with the founding, the ideas of the founding fathers of this nation.
Now, I know you have a vote coming up, but I'm glad you were able to squeeze in. What would Rush's listeners find exciting about what you're doing today as far as the fight for bringing back constitutionality and freedom to Washington, D.C.? Because I know you're involved in a few things. I'm always careful. I don't want to just throw them out there because I know sometimes it hasn't come to fruition yet, but I know that there's investigations brewing and there's some good news. So what do you got for us? Give us some good news.
Well, of course, I'm working with my good friends Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, Ron DeSantis on the issue regarding this Russian investigation in the presidency and the president and his administration. Of course, the revelation that the Soviet oligarch Deripaska was involved with Robert Mueller over the last couple of days, and that he indeed may be compromised, and the whole thing might be compromised because of that. That fight goes on with Devin Nunes and all the guys here because literally, as you know, Ken, this whole thing has been made up out of whole cloth, the whole thing. And it's literally, if they couldn't get the presidency at the ballot box by defeating President Trump, they are trying to steal his presidency and the issues that the American people voted for by hobbling him and his ability to move forward. But I will tell you this, I just got done with a meeting with the former Inspector General for the House of Representatives for our electronic communications. We'll put it that way, for our IT. And if you've heard about the Awan and the House IT scandal, this is literally where a whole bunch of tax money was stolen from the American people, and where these people that were running an IT business, so to speak, had ghost employees.
Does that circle back to Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
Well, it does.
Yes, okay.
Back to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And the problem here is, Ken, and Russia listeners need to know this, is that the investigation has been stalled. I will just give you a couple facts here. Literally 60,000 logons onto Xavier Becerra. Now, he's currently the Attorney General for California, but he had the server for the House Democrats. It was his server. These folks logged onto that thing, I think, 6,000 times, which might not seem like a lot, but that's a whole lot of times, and oftentimes logged in as a member of Congress, and the member of Congress didn't know it. There are about, I think, 42 or 43 Democrat members.
Wow.
That their logins were used, and there are allegations that they were actually logging on from Pakistan.
Holy
from
moly.
the country of Pakistan. And we don't know how far the rat hole goes, but I can tell you the investigation is about 2 years on now, Ken, and the FBI just spoke to the IG, the Inspector General who started the investigation. They just spoke to her 3 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
And they wouldn't have done that except for people like myself, Mr. Gomert, Mr. Gosar, other members that have been pushing to see how deep the investigation goes. This investigation, these individuals have terror ties. The crimes have absolutely been committed, yet you don't see anybody in jail. And, of course, it also is connected to, unfortunately, members of the House of Representatives, but we don't know how. We don't know the depth of it, and we don't know the scope of it, because every time we ask, that we're just told there's an investigation ongoing. And one of the problems is they gave the investigation to the Capitol Police. Unfortunately, the Capitol Police don't have anybody that's qualified to do an investigation into information systems. And that's what this is all about. Not only the theft of government property related to information systems, but potentially the theft of all the information that is encompassed on 42, 43 members' computers.
I remember seeing initial reports of this and the link to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Didn't she in some way facilitate one of the, quote, ringleaders of this to leaving the country or getting a clean slate or something? I seem to remember it was someone in her camp that was up to no good.
Well, we don't know exactly what good or no good they were up to, but we know this: these people were kicked out of their access to the information system here in the House. So therefore, once you're kicked out, how do you have a job? Because that is your job, is to work on those systems. These people were kicked out under this cloud and this investigation, yet she let the guy, Imran Awan, who was running the thing, she kept him on as her employee.
That's
long
the one.
After.
Yeah.
Long after the fact. And no one could figure out why. And let me just tell you this, too, because this is reported in open source. Imran Awan not only had her password here officially, but interestingly, he also is known to have her password at the Democratic National Committee. And if you wonder about the hack there, we just want to know what the nexus is. We want to know what the relationship is. Was he involved in that hack? Because that information came out in WikiLeaks. So we've never really been sure, other than taking the DNC's word for it, where they got that information. And with all due respect, you can't really count on them to give you the appropriate information. And remember, the FBI was never allowed to look at the DNC server. So we're just taking their word for it that the Russians stole it. Maybe somebody else did.
Isn't it amazing that
we're trying to figure that out?
People still believe that the FBI thoroughly investigated the DNC server, and this was a thorough investigation. And here we are in May of 2018, and the FBI has yet to see the DNC server And so much of this Russian narrative was connected to all that.
Yeah, it is amazing, and this goes to the two standards of justice. I guarantee you, if you had, as Ken Matthews or even Rush Limbaugh, had stolen a whole bunch of government computer equipment and defrauded the government, and we have that on paper, that's not even a question. I mean, that's verified. These are verified crimes. If you had done that, and then who knows what else you had done specifically with that information, had links to terror, were connected to a foreign government that, let's face it, Pakistan isn't our closest ally, I would think you'd probably be sitting in jail for a long time already. But I can tell you right now, no one's gone to jail at this point. And I don't see at this point I don't see any resolution where somebody is going to jail anytime soon.
Congressman, I know you have a vote. In 5 seconds, can you tell me, do you believe that the Reciprocity Act will be voted on this year? I heard rumors that it's going to be. Is that true? The handgun or carrot? Okay.
Yeah. Of course, I'm a big co-sponsor and believer in that.
Yeah.
I will actually be surprised. We sent it to the Senate.
Oh, I was hoping it would.
Surprised if. Yeah, we passed it in the House. You need to call your senator and tell them. You want to have your Second Amendment rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution and to get on that. So that's the answer there.
Excellent. Well, good luck on the vote. Congressman Scott Perry, Pennsylvania, thanks for being on the show. And I know Rush will probably have you back on now that you've talked to Bo. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. Oh, did you hear me sniffling? That was... Hey, really quick, I want to grab a couple more calls as I fill in for Rush today. My name's Ken Matthews. What a treat. It's a very fun day today. Very weird-tasting salad, but it tasted healthy to me. It's the stuff I couldn't pronounce, but it tasted pretty healthy. I wanted to throw this out there, and I just learned this. Did you know that 40% of Mississippi does not have an Internet connection? Bo's shaking his head. No, that's true. And also, one more little tidbit here. New Mexico has the worst cell phone coverage in the United States, according to this survey. Who did this survey? Let me see. It's in Newsmax, but I just find that interesting that 40% of an entire state might not have an Internet connection. Well, that's why we need free Internet for everybody and a free car. 800-282-2882. Let's go to Joe, Orlando, Florida. Joe, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hey, yeah, somebody was chatting about impeachment earlier, and I think there is a legitimate reason, and that would be violation of his oath of office. And
What did he violate? What did he violate?
Well, I think he violated upholding the Constitution when he attacked Syria without congressional approval.
How was that a violation?
Well, by the Constitution, you have to go through Congress. He just ignored it.
No, you don't have to go through Congress to do an attack like that. To start a war, you do. And that's why Bush got it before he went into Iraq. That's why we debated for months and months and months. But to do a initial or retaliatory strike vital to American military interest or the interest of our allies, he can do it. I mean,
well, you're making that up. There was no.
No, I'm not making it up. There's precedents for this throughout history, and imagine if the president wanted to respond but had to wait to get the likes of Chuck Schumer and the rest of the gang on board. My gosh.
Well, he didn't have to respond. He did not have to respond. There was no attack on us and no threat to us.
But he felt it was necessary and in our interest because they violated the Geneva Convention, among other things. Didn't they use chemical weapons and some other stuff? So you think that's impeachable?
Violating his oath of office? Yes.
Well, that's a good question. Bo would ask the same thing. Why hasn't he been impeached yet?
Because the Democrats love killing Arabs just as much as the Republicans do.
Well, thanks for the insight, Joe. I appreciate that. I didn't know that there was such a lust to kill Arabs. But I do need you need to reread the Constitution, and I know impeach is a popular term, but you have to have something impeachable first. And what do we do about all the times that Obama launched attacks? Oh, never mind. What's that? You want to go to Dave in Angier, North Carolina? Is Dave there?
How are you today? Thanks for taking my call, sir.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, just real quick, I think one of the biggest problems is the media. Nobody's really holding them accountable, holding them to their own standards that they've developed over the years where, they have to have two independent confirmations of a source to do an article. There's no real investigative reporting. There's only an agenda. And nobody's holding it accountable. If the media would just tell the truth, all they have to do is report the truth, the facts, and then let people decide for themselves, not tell them what to think and what to believe. What's your thought on that?
I think it's a great point. I think, Dave, there's too much opinion and ideology bleeding through what it allegedly is of supposedly objective news. Now, I am an opinion host. I don't say to myself, I'm going out and I've got 3 verifiable sources and this, that, and the other thing. But you've got an entire news media, probably 85 to 90% that leans left. And many no longer, just like you said, they no longer hold that burden of proof. They don't.
Well, they tell they tell part of the story.
Exactly.
They don't tell the whole story.
Yep.
They tell. Like there was for example, there was a shooting, a police-involved shooting here in North Carolina about a year and a half ago, and the lead story was police shoot unarmed woman with baby in the car. Well, what didn't come out until days later was that the woman was intoxicated. They tried for an hour to get her to stop. She tried to run over several police officers, and then they, you know what I mean? And they didn't even know the child was in the car because it wasn't in the car seat.
Well, you just answered that question, and thank you for calling. Whatever the pieces they need from the story to make the narrative work, they'll put up front in the story. And they count on people following along. It almost happened with the Russian collusion story, but fortunately the pieces are breaking up. But you're right. Most people just want the truth. But like Jack Nicholson said, it goes so fast when you're having fun. Thanks to Rush Limbaugh and the EIB network team. Check out Rush 24/7 and the Limbaugh letter. Just Google it. RushLimbaugh.com. Check it out. I'm Ken Matthews. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Ken Matthews. I haven't officially gone with the Kanye thing yet.